Hello, welcome. I'm Lindsay. I'm the woman with the nipples. I'm a mom, a certified breastfeeding counselor, the founder behind Soothe Beginnings, and I'm a huge pacifier safety advocate. We've got a really great show for you. We are going to go over some of the recent pacifier incidents that have occurred on saferproducts.gov. Those are always really good to be aware of because in the products that you're using, knowing what's occurring helps us all be aware of what to look out for. We're going to do some really fun pacifier trivia with my husband, Justin. He'll make an appearance, Mr. Nipples, if you will. We are going to talk about pacifier weaning tips. I know that is such a hot topic for parents. Parents are always asking me, when do I wean? How do I wean? So we're going to go over that tonight. And then the last thing that we're going to go over is pacifier safety. Like, what are the things to look for in a pacifier so you can feel safe for your little one? All right. Time to talk about recent safety incidents and lessons learned. This first one happened in December on saferproducts.gov. A 7-month-old baby was swaddled, put in their swing to sleep with a pacifier in. Unfortunately, it had a tragic end. There was a parent present. The parent did fall asleep. So there's a lot of lessons in this one, you guys. Unfortunately, pacifiers, we know they are linked to reduced risk of SIDS, but we have to prioritize safe sleep. Just because something can help doesn't mean it's going to prevent. Just like a parent being present, even if they were supervising unsafe sleep, that is not going to make that safe. Positional asphyxiation is silent. So that is something to be very aware of. Now, when it comes to safe sleep and pacifiers, yes, pacifiers are linked to that. If you are following safe sleep with pacifiers, we don't want them attached to a stuffed animal, to a pacifier clip, or to any type of lovey. Any type of pacifier attachment is not safe for sleep. So please do not use any type of pacifier attachment for sleep. Let's talk about a recent incident that occurred with the nippy frozen pacifier. It's made for teething, so you put a little bit of water in the back of it, you throw it in the freezer, it freezes, baby can gnaw on it. We've got a few issues here. So what occurred in this situation is that the back of the pacifier opened, the ice came out and got lodged in the baby's throat, which is a major choking hazard. That is something to be aware of. And this is actually not the first incident from this specific product with this issue, so please be very aware of that. Our next issue with this product is that frozen teethers aren't recommended. Ice can do more damage to the gums than good. So you've got hard ice, we don't want frostbite, we don't want bruising. These are not recommended. We're recommending cold, like in the fridge, but we're not recommended anything frozen on the gums. The other aspect about a frozen pacifier is that pacifiers, in my opinion, should not be teethers. I'm not a fan of products that are pacifiers but in a teether form, because what are we doing? We're training our child to teeth on and chew on a pacifier. So what's going to happen is when they are teething and they start chewing on their pacifier is we see incidents on saferproducts.gov all the time of babies are chewing on their pacifier, they chew a piece off, and now we've got a choking hazard on our hands. So I'm not a fan of training our babies to chew on a teething product that looks like a pacifier. If your baby is teething and they start gnawing on their pacifier, I'm going to recommend you replace it with a teether. And keep in mind, we do prefer silicone, obviously, versus that natural rubber or latex. But when your baby's awake, if they are gnawing on their pacifier, swap them out to a teether. A teether is not safe in the crib for sleep. Pacifiers are, but we don't want to train them to chew on their pacifier to begin with. So make that swap happen. That way we're not integrating that. Additional pacifiers, we don't want to put water in them and freeze them. Obviously, they aren't designed for that, so let's not do that. But also this product that is designed for that is still posing some issues. When you come back, we're going to do some pacifier trivia. We're going to play a fun game of pacifier trivia. This was a hit at the Prego Expo. So I'm going to have you guys play along, but I'm going to be seeing what my husband Justin thinks. I mean, to be fair, you spend a lot of time with me, so I hope you know these. I hope you, prove me proud here.
One way to find out.
I know. So, Mr. Nipples, everybody.
Mr. Nip.
Don't worry, I'll include a round of applause. I'll pipe that in for you. Okay, so comment below what you think. We're only going to do 5 today. But comment below which question and what you think the answer is. So pacifier trivia, true or false? Pacifiers were first used 3,000 years ago, made of clay and bone.
True.
True. Okay.
Wicked smart.
Wicked smart. All right, I'll give you that one. Pacifiers with stuffed animals attached are great for sleep.
False.
Why?
They just are.
So the pacifiers with the stuffed animals attached are actually a suffocation hazard, and you can't have stuffed animals in the crib.
That's what I meant to say.
That's what you meant to say. Ooh, this is a good one. Cutting a pacifier is a great way to wean.
False. Sharp edges.
Ooh, all right. And they're not tested that way. We don't want them to start playing with it with their tongue, chewing on it. Okay, all right, you knew that one. Natural rubber pacifiers. So these guys, natural rubber pacifiers grow more bacteria and yeast than silicone. True or false?
True.
They do. Do you know why? So the latex pacifiers are porous and they are proven to grow more yeast and bacteria than silicone. All right, I've got a really tough one. Our last pacifier trivia question for you, and then you and the nipples are free. Free the nipples. We'll talk about that off camera. If a pacifier falls out after the baby falls asleep, so you give your baby a pacifier for sleep, and the pacifier falls out, are they still protected? Are they still getting the benefits of the pacifier for SIDS?
No. That even makes sense.
All right, so we don't know why. So we don't know why pacifiers are linked to a reduced risk of SIDS, but if you are using a pacifier routinely with your baby, they still have a lowered risk even after their pacifier falls out.
So it's not like they have to keep it in the whole entire time.
No.
It's just the routine of it. Because obviously they could keep it in most nights and then it just pops out one night.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why, but yeah,
so
that's
how many times we wake up our kid just because of that?
I didn't know that. Obviously, I didn't know that back then. To be fair, we also didn't know that babies have active sleep. So as soon as we heard our daughter crying, or not crying, just rustling, we would run in there. And we were, in fact, waking her up.
Yeah, I figured that out after the fact. But the pacifier, so, all right, I'm a loser.
So he only got one wrong. You actually did pretty good. You did pretty good. All right, welcome back. We're going to talk pacifier weaning. When, how, all of the things. And even the timing behind it, why that is such a big deal. A lot of parents, when they go to give their baby a pacifier, they have so many concerns about, how am I going to get them off the pacifier? I don't want to deal with it. When is the right time to do that, right? And if your baby does take a pacifier, trying to navigate how to go about weaning feels like this is gonna suck. We're going to demystify pacifier weaning. We're going to make this easier and simpler. That way you have the tips and tricks and tools up your sleeve. Now, before I start, I do want to mention I have a free pacifier weaning guide. Grab that from the profile. I also have a children's story about pacifier weaning. Patty the pacifier is going on her next adventure, as is the little baby in this book as well, going on their next adventure as they're getting ready to ditch the pacifier. The back of the book has a step-by-step pacifier weaning guide for you, the parent, to make life a little bit easier. Let's talk about pacifier weaning timing. The timing is very important. Everyone's biggest concern, pacifier teeth. So here's the cool news. The American Academy of Pediatric Dentists, the dentist for peds, they recommend weaning around anywhere from age 2 to 3. By age 3, if they want to see weaning happen. Now, their pacifier policy goes over a bunch of research and citations. And in all of this research, at age 6 months old is where we start to seeing, it's called otitis media, ear infections. Ear infections are in fact linked to pacifier use after the age of 6 months. So the official recommendation from them is to use a pacifier in those first 6 months of life, but by age 3 to have them weaned off the pacifier. Now we do start to see more dental issues around the 18 months mark. I'm personally a fan of weaning pacifiers where applicable by 18 months old. And this is going to be for a few reasons. It's before those feelings get too big, so it's a little bit easier. After 1, you have a little bit more leeway, right? But before 1, they're still getting some of those benefits. The major chunk is in that first 6 months of life. So around that, like age 1, 18 months old is my sweet spot, but there are a lot of parents that are going to want to wean at 6 months old. If that pacifier is really upsetting your baby trying to get back to sleep at night, it's called like a crutch, then that's okay to ditch the pacifier, which I break all of that down in the guide under age 1 versus over 1. You're going to handle weaning a little bit differently to keep safe sleep in mind. Now, a couple of things about pacifier weaning timing. There's a couple times you don't want to wean off the pacifier. Are you moving? Is your kiddo starting daycare? Are you having another baby? Any major life transition, or sickness or anything that's going to cause any upset where they need a little extra reassurance and comfort, that's not the time to wean off the pacifier, babes. We're going to do it a different time, okay? So it's better to hold off and not throw up too many things on your kiddo at once, like potty training and pacifier weaning. It's too much. Handle one thing at a time when the family is ready, when your kiddo is ready, that you can give extra love and comfort. Now, whether you are looking to either cold turkey or do the gentle weaning strategy, there's a couple of things that are going to maintain the same between those two strategies. You do have to do a little bit of prep work, and it's not difficult. Don't think this is this whole, it's really not, I promise. What you're going to do is you're going to take your kiddo to go pick out their own comfort item. During their wake times, before you even start weaning off the pacifier, you are going to let them choose their own comfort item. That is going to be the first line of defense when they have upset. Because remember, the pacifier is just one soothing tool in the toolbox. It's not the tool, right? So we're going to start introducing other things as comfort as well. And this might look like more cuddles and snuggles, and making sure they have access to you for that as well, and reassurance in all of this. As much as you can use positive reinforcement of you're cuddling, you're stuffy, things like that, those are the things that we really want to tap into. Now, whether you are going to do the gentle weaning or that cold turkey, it is going to be probably a helpful idea for you to start limiting pacifier use a little bit more, right? So now we've already said the pacifier is not our first go-to during upset. Now we're going to look at kind of keeping it a little bit more to sleep time only. When you hit this mark, if that gentle, slow weaning is working out well for you, we love it. Keep rocking and rolling with it. If this is posing an issue, that it's actually making your child a little bit more hyper aware, like it did for our own daughter, you're going to have to plan the cold turkey. I'm sorry. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to make sure, regardless of weaning or cold turkey, you have a good sleep routine set up for your kiddo. So you have other sleep cues, whether it's sound machine, the same bedtime story every night, the same song every night, other things to trigger, oh, hey, it's bedtime. So those are the things I want you to keep in mind, okay? So now they've got a really good, your kiddo has a really great sleep routine. They already have during their wake windows an additional comfort item, okay? Now is the time that we do need to start talking to them about this in an age-appropriate way, of course. So you can either read the Patty story, you can talk to your child. If their personality is, I'm a big kid, tap into that, lean into that. If your kiddo is just very distractible, tap into that. But making sure they have other comfort items to address those emotional needs is really important, because we don't want them to go to their fingers, right? So it's an emotional need that's being satisfied, so we need to address that. Absolutely. Now, if you're doing the weaning, you just slowly start weaning off of it, where that doesn't become the thing they have to have. And as far as the cold turkey, that can look like the pacifier fairy, going to Build-A-Bear, planting a little garden together of pacifiers, and the next morning flowers are there, things like that. So there's a lot of strategies here that we can do. Any questions you have with pacifier weaning, drop them below. When it comes to pacifier weaning, I've got a few mistakes I need you to avoid. These are safety issues. We have all seen the trend. I keep getting sent videos of people cutting the pacifier, poking a hole in the pacifier. Please don't do this. Pacifiers are not tested in this capacity. It can create a sharp edge. Regardless if it's not sharp enough to cut them, that edge is something they're now going to start playing with their tongue. The inside of pacifiers, if it's a closed design, can have bacteria and even sometimes mold growth on the inside, which we don't want to open up, okay? Pacifiers are not designed in this, tested in this capacity to be opened up like that. So please do not do it. If they start playing around with that with their tongue, I don't want to encourage them to start chewing on it, gnawing on it. It might create another issue here that they are not intended for, and we don't want to encourage. So please don't cut your child's pacifiers. The other thing I want to talk about is don't rush the pacifier weaning process if your child isn't ready. Because if you go too hard, too fast, the emotional aspect isn't quite there and catching up yet, that we can actually have more of an issue on our hands, and it's totally not worth it, and it's not helping out anybody. Coming up next, we're going to talk about choosing a safe pacifier. All new parents doing their product research are going to need to know how to choose a safe pacifier. You think about it, pacifiers are the one product that go in your baby's mouth from day one for hours on end, sometimes up to years. So choosing the right one and knowing the differences between the different kinds of options out there is really important, and in some cases important to your baby's health. So let's start with the material. Pacifiers come in two different materials. You have either food or medical grade silicone. This one's medical grade. You also have natural rubber, which is latex. A lot of parents are not aware. There's a lot of greenwashing going on and trying to market natural rubber as better for you, the planet, and for baby. And unfortunately, there's a lot of issues with putting latex in a baby's mouth. Latex is one of those materials that's very well documented. The more you use it, the more likely you are to become allergic to it. So that is a major downside. It's also a porous material, so it does grow more yeast and bacteria than its silicone counterpart. And latex also breaks down just from UV exposure and high heat exposure, and they are typically limited in how you can sanitize them. You can take the high heat and it won't leach anything. So this is just a much safer material that you're not going to have to worry about the allergy situation. The other thing that silicone does that latex does not is that silicone is going to maintain its shape, whereas these tend to grow as they start breaking down. Regardless of the type of pacifier you have, whether it's that latex or if it's the silicone, you are going to need to do pacifier nipple replacements. Silicone, you can go every 6 to 8 weeks. Latex, you're going to go every 4 to 6 weeks. But here's a caveat. Check your baby's pacifier every single time you give it to them. Look for wear, tear, cracks, because anything like that, we don't want that to become a choking hazard. They bite a piece off, things like that. So before you give your baby a pacifier, every single time, check it for rips, cracks, tears, all of those things to make sure you're keeping your baby safe. And then do stick to that pacifier nipple recommended replacement schedule. I'm a huge fan of telling parents to go subscribe. Whatever pacifier it is you guys use, whether it's Amazon, wherever, auto subscribe so it's not something else that's on your plate. You can just pacifiers just arrive every 6 weeks. You're good to go. You don't have to think about it. And that's a really, really helpful tip. Let's talk about pacifier shape. This is another one that every parent is like, what is the best pacifier shape? So when we're talking pacifier shape, just like baby bottles, there's been a lot more information coming out about this lately, which I am thrilled. But we need to apply that same information to pacifiers. I'm sure you have all heard of the triangle test for bottles. Well, this is going to apply to pacifiers as well. A lot of the times what we see happening is the orthodontic pacifiers are being marketed because you see how narrow those are and the teeth are out of the way. Well, guess what? A newborn baby doesn't have teeth. We don't need to be worrying about teeth that don't exist for even a year plus. So when a pacifier is being marketed for a whole mouth of teeth, that is not what your newborn baby needs. That is not the stage of development they are at. The stage of development they are at, we need to encourage a wider, deeper latch like that triangle test where we can. So doing a wider base like this is recommended, or these round kinds are really great as well. What we want to avoid are the narrow base, especially with a very bulbous tip that can put a lot of pressure on the palate. So trying to avoid those is going to be really helpful. Also like this, when you've got a flat nipple like that, the baby can't cup their tongue around that nipple. This is about oral motor development for feeding and for preparation for speech. Those are what we need to be focusing on is moving those muscles and making those muscles strong and working them. Now, when it comes to the orthodontic nipples, this one is a much flatter one. It doesn't get very bulbous at the end. We want to avoid those really big bulbous ones. Now, why would I include an orthodontic pacifier when I'm telling you the bases and flat pacifiers aren't the best? Well, if your baby has an oral restriction, like my own daughter did, sometimes that's the only kind they can keep in their mouth. We do want your baby working to keep their pacifier in their mouth. We want them to work those muscles. We don't want it to just sit in there and kind of let them lazily suck because they're not getting the full benefits of non-nutritive sucking. We want to work those muscles. Those are going to make feeding more efficient, build up the muscles they also need for speech, and working that tongue in the proper way is really important for their development. Now, if your baby doesn't take the recommended pacifier shape, guess what? It's not the end of the world. We're telling you what will work the right muscles for those things versus which ones won't. And that's okay. You get to do with that information as a parent what you will. If your baby is actually only having one pacifier preference where it's like that narrow base one, it is actually a red flag for oral restriction, and that it might be worth talking to somebody if they only have one bottle or they have difficulty taking a bottle. There's a few different red flags you can look at. I'm a huge fan. Check out Picky Peds. She does a really great job explaining oral motor dysfunction and what you can do about it. When you're picking a pacifier, we do want to avoid the ones with stuffed animals attached. These are not safe for sleep, and these are also not safe as soon as your baby has a tooth pop through. The other thing is that any pacifier, whether it has a pacifier clip, a lovey attached, anything like that, none of those are going to be safe for sleep. You don't want to attach anything to the car seat, but these are not great. The other issue with that is that the weight drives that nipple up into that roof of the pellet. They do have some that detach, but there is no benefit to the lovey. Now, I understand the element of, oh, my baby can grab it and replace it and put it back in their mouth. However, I understand that appeal, but they're not safe for sleep. These are not safe in the crib, and the weight is just not worth it. So any kind of pacifier attachment in my book is a skip it. I'm a huge fan though. I do like the pacifier tote bags that go onto your diaper bag or even your purse, so you can have an extra one there or throw in the dirty one and give them a clean one. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm also a fan of, I used to wear, and this is so ridiculous, I used to wear joggers that had like the big cargo pockets. So I would put an extra pacifier in there so I could put a dirty one in. So there are other things that you can do. And also working with your baby during their wake windows to look for and grab their pacifier. You know, you can take their hand and help them find it in their crib and help them replace it. So that's a skill you can work on during wake windows. That way you're not waking up as much in the middle of the night. Any questions you have on different pacifiers out there or qualities or features I haven't gone over, drop them below. And also in the profile, I do have a lot more for you as well. I hope you enjoyed today's video talking about some of the incidents that have occurred to be aware of, because especially with certain products, if you keep seeing a repeated incident, as the parent, that can help you make an informed decision. I hope you had a lot of fun talking pacifier trivia with my husband, Justin, Mr. Nipples, as I call him, and talking about pacifier weaning, which is every parent's big concern and worry, right? None of us want that headache. So those resources, again, are in the profile. And of course, how to choose a safe pacifier. If you want more, grab that stuff in the profile. I've got a lot of it out there. Any questions you have, please connect with me and follow for more.